Hi, fourth graders. We're going to continue working with comparisons and comparing fractions and mixed numbers. So multiplicative comparison is a situation where one amount is a certain number of times as many or as much as another amount. We can use a bar model to help us solve this and to visualize this relationship. So the way that we do it is we have one bar that shows the amount that we know, and then we can figure out how many bars or how many times that number we're working with. So we're going to take a look at a problem here and use that bar model just as we did yesterday. So our problem says mountains are often measured by the distance they rise above sea level. Mount Washington rises more than 1 1/10 miles above sea level. Mount Everest rises about 5 times as high. About how many miles above sea level does Mount Everest rise? You probably caught that typo. I'm going to fix that real quick. What's that word? It's supposed to say above. There we go. Let's fix that. Okay. So you'll see here that I have a word written in blue. It says distributive. That's one of those strategies we've been using to multiply a whole number by a mixed number. And then you'll see over here in green, rename as a fraction. That's another strategy we've been using where we take that mixed number and we rename it as a fraction. So we're going to solve this problem using both of those methods so that you have them and you get a review seeing the same problem solved 2 different ways. All right, so over here, I'm going to draw my bar method. I'm going to pause the video and draw it, and then I'll come back when I have it completely drawn. So here I drew the bar model, and you'll see that next to the W, that means Mount Washington, I have one box, and inside it says 1 1/10. So that box represents 1 1/10 miles above sea level. Down here I have the E for Everest, and I drew 5 boxes because I know that Mount Everest is 5 times as high as Mount Washington. So there's 5 of those boxes. It's 5 times the value. Down here in yellow, I have an H. H is representing the height of Mount Everest. So how many miles above sea level Mount Everest is. So I'm going to write out my equation here in black. So I know that H equals 1 1/10 times 5. Okay? So first we're going to solve that using the distributive property. And I'll do that in blue, just like the word distributive. So if I use the distributive property, I'm thinking of 1 1/10 as 1 1/10. And I'm going to multiply both of those by 5. So I'm thinking of this as 1 plus 1/10, right? Breaking them apart, multiplying them each by 5. So it would look like this, 5 times 1 plus 5 times, whoops, I made a mistake there, plus 5 times 1/10, right? Okay, so 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 1/10, multiply my whole number by my numerator, keep the denominator, is 5 tenths. So I know that my answer is 5 5/10. I'm going to use my unit here, miles above sea level. You might be looking at 5 5/10 and recognize that that's the same as 5.5 miles. So that's great to write it as 5.5 miles as well. So I have my answer of 5 5/10 miles. I'm going to try it by renaming it as a fraction. I'm going to switch to green here. So this is another available strategy. I'm going to erase the unit. You shouldn't do that, but I need the space. So we'll write it back when we solve it with this strategy. Rename as a fraction. So I have my equation of H equals, back here looking at my equation, H equals 1 1/10 times 5. So I'm going to take my 1 1/10, my mixed number, and I'm going to rename it as a fraction. Thinking about tenths, how many tenths are in one whole for my one whole? Well, that would be 10 tenths. And then I have the remaining 1/10. So my mixed number renamed as a fraction is 11 tenths. And just to explain that again, I know that there's 10 tenths in the one whole, and then I have the 1/10 as well. So that means 10 tenths plus 1/10 is 11 tenths. So I'm going to multiply those together to get my H, or my height, my miles above sea level, and I get, that 5 times 11 is 55. So I have 55 tenths. But if I said to you, Mount Everest rises 55 tenths miles above sea level, you would probably be very confused, as would I. It doesn't make sense in this situation, so we need to turn it into a mixed number. something that makes sense. Well, I know that I can do 55 divided by 10, or I know that in one whole there's 10 tenths. And I know there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I'm counting by tens. That means I have 5 wholes, and then I have those 5 tenths left over. Okay, so I could have divided as well. I'm going to divide right here just so you can see it. So I could have done 55 divided by 10. I know that 10 times 5 is 50. And I would have 5 remaining. And that 5 means 5 tenths remaining. So 5 and 5 tenths, and I'm going to add that unit back on because we should keep our unit so we are making sense of our problem here. So either way I did it, I got the same answer, which is good. So either of these strategies work really well to solve a mixed number times a whole number. So you give them a try, see what you prefer, and it's time for you to do your turn.